Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about computers. Now, if you don't like computers, or you're not interested in it, or you don't want to learn anything new, then you can go ahead and click off this video. Alright, now that I lost half of my viewers, let's roll that intro. So, in recent times, now that everybody's kind of stuck at home due to the virus, a lot of people have been coming to me saying, hey, I want a better computer. We know that you're good at computers, so help us please. And so I'm kind of going to make this video for anybody looking to build a computer, anybody who wants to upgrade a computer, or even if you are just interested in it. So let's, go into the first build, which is the oh my god, why do you need this? It is so overkill for literally anything you're gonna be doing. Now let's get into it. This one does not have a price point. Alrighty, so I just got done building this computer, and oh my god, I say building, I meant designing. So this computer is going to be your all out. You probably won't need to upgrade for the next 10 years. You want to virtualize Windows while virtualizing Mac while on a freaking Linux machine. This is a beast. Now, I went with the Ryzen 9 3900X just because of, one, it is fairly cheap for how good it is. Two, it is a 12-core processor. Next, for the cooler, now you can go water-cooled, but I decided to go air-cooled for this system. It is the 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽 Pro 4. This one, well, this is not sponsored, unfortunately, but this is a really great cooler. It looks really nice, and it's going to, keep your system cooled. And you're definitely going to want that in this computer. So, next I went with 64 gigabytes of DDR4 3600 speed memory. Now, moving on to the hard drives. So, I went with a 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽 4.0 2TB M.2 drive for your main OS, right? And I would use this to virtualize Mac OS, so I am going to put a Samsung 1TB in there. That way I can virtualize whatever I want. Now, it did not let me choose two graphics cards, but for this all out, no budget, I went with a 3090 24 GB card. And now, since I would use this for virtualizing Mac OS, I would add in a RX 580 or their newest cards, which came out recently, I believe. So this is all gonna fit inside of a Lian 011D full ATX case. Now, it's not the best looking, but it's definitely not the worst looking. I would actually be really happy to build in this system. It looks, or in this case, it looks really nice. It also has a bracket right here where you can mount your GPU facing the glass, that way you can flex on all your friends. And this is all being powered by a Corsair 1200 watt 80 plus platinum certified fully modular. You get the point. It's a really good power supply. So yeah, let's move on to the more mid-range budget area, which I'm saying is around anything between $1,000 and $500. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so with this machine, you're going to be able to do some pretty high tier gaming. You'll be able to ray trace and stuff, maybe not at as efficiently as if you had a 20 series card, but 20 series cards are a joke unless you can get one second hand, which I don't advise doing. Now, this system has a Ryzen 7 3700X 3.6 GHz 8-core processor. This 8-core processor will be able to handle pretty much anything you can throw at it, and it'll do it pretty efficiently. So for the cooler, I went with the Cooler Master Hybrid 212. It's really good looking. It's not going to make your case look really ugly or anything. or your build really ugly. And I would personally as this fan if I had to go with it. Now for the RAM, I chose the Corsair Vengeance 16GB 3200 kit of DDR4 memory. I really wanted to throw in a 2TB hard drive here with a 1TB SSD, but unfortunately our budget did not fit it. Now, I use this SSD in my main rig that I am recording on now. It is stupid fast and it's really good, and for the price of $89, you're not going to get a better deal on a terabyte hard drive or SSD. Now, for the graphics card, I decided to go with a 1660 Ti with 6GB of VRAM. Now, I really wanted to try to put the 3070 in here, but unfortunately that would put us about $200 to $300 over our budget. Now, I probably could have threw in a slower CPU and then taken the hard drive out, but I really didn't want to do that. I also could have lowered the speed of the RAM, but once again, I really did not want to do that. I didn't want to impact the performance too much. Now, all of our components will fit really nicely inside of this NZXT. It's an ATX mid-tower case, so it should fit just about anywhere you want to put it. Again, it looks like, I actually haven't built in this case, but it looks like down there you have a place to mount your hard drive. Also, it looks like you can side mount your GPU to reduce less GPU sag, but you can also just buy a bracket for that. So yeah, one of the main reasons why I stuck with this for a more budget case is because one, it's only about $70, and two, it comes with a PCU shroud, so you won't have to see all this ugly ketchup and mustard cables if you have them. Now, I'm gonna show you guys what I've been using. This is the 𝓉𝓾𝒽 Smart 700 watt. I have the 500 watt one in my system, but this is a really good power supply. I personally recommend this. I've been using it for a little while now. I've never had a problem with them. They are amazing with shipping, and yeah, that's my take on the 𝓉𝓾𝒽. Now this clocked in at around $1,029.21 USD. So it is a tiny bit over our budget, but not by much. If you really wanted to, you could probably end up swapping out that 1TB SSD for like a 500GB one, and then throwing in a terabyte hard drive, and that would probably bring down the price a little bit. But anyways, time to move on to our extreme budget build. Hey everybody, I am back, and for this build I decided to go with the Ryzen 5 2600. Reason being is because it's a great 6-core processor and it comes with a cooler in the box. Granted, I am 90% sure all the CPUs that I've shown have come with a cooler, but since this is an extreme, or not an extreme budget, but since it isn't a budget build, I decided not to go with the cooler because the Ryzen 5 cooler, all the Ryzen coolers are amazing and do a great job of keeping your system cool. But with those higher end CPUs, they can get a little more hot, so I advise getting a CPU cooler, especially if you're gonna overclock. So next, I went with a Gigabyte B450 motherboard. It's, you know, it's nothing special, pretty plain and simple. You have 4 DIMM slots that would fit these Alloy 16GB 3200 kit of DDR4. Now, for some reason, I couldn't actually find the SSD itself, which is $80 from the Silicon Power family of storage devices. So I went with the NVMe M.2. This is going to give you blazing fast speeds, and it is still $100 almost, which is a lot more affordable than a lot of these other brands. Now, since we were a tiny bit over budget, and by a tiny bit I mean a few hundred over, I decided to, you know, tune down a few of the specs. So instead of getting like a 1660 Ti, I put a 1660 in this one right here. Now, it's going to give you roughly the same amount of performance, but a little bit less FPS. You won't be able to ray trace on this machine, more than likely. Now, it'll fit all inside this nice teck ATX case. So, that it comes with fans pre-installed, and they are RGB, so if you're into that, hey. And then the 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽 Smart 500 watt power supply, and this comes in at just under $700. Now, next is an extreme budget build. So I went with a 3200G, Ryzen 3 3200G, because one, it's clocked at a higher speed. Now, I know a lot of you guys might be like, well, it's an APU. It's a 4-core APU. No, this is fine and all, for now, but like, I would really advise going with like a better CPU. Now, this is a 3.6 GHz quad-core processor, which means you have 4 cores. So it's not the best, but it's not the worst. Now, I used to stream on a 4-core CPU, and my streams were just fine. It was just my GPU holding me back. So this is a lot better than my old 4-core processor. You'll be able to get by on this fairly easily. The CPU will be in this MSI B450 Pro. This board, it's a solid board. Good VRAMs and everything, good cooling. I would recommend this board. And you can also use this board for if you get a better CPU, as long as it's still in the Ryzen family and it's within the BIOS, which you could do a BIOS update. They're not hard to do. So yeah. Now, for the RAM, I went with Alloy again. I use Alloy in my system, and my RAM's just fine. This one's set at 3200 MHz because, again, like, this shares RAM with the APU if you use the APU. Now, if you're not going to use it, 8 gigs will do you just fine. Now, I did kind of put a hard drive in here. I really advise getting even a cheap SSD. It can be a 128GB SSD. As long as it can fit your operating system, then you should be good. And then here's where the money happens. The Sapphire Red RX 550 4GB. This hurts, but I know the RX 550 isn't the worst card. So yeah, it's not the best card, but it's not exactly the worst card you could buy, especially not for the $88.99 on Newegg. Now again, make sure you keep in mind this is all in USD. It could be different from country to country. And so it's all going to be put in this DIY PC MA01. It's not the best looking case, but at all. It's actually, I don't personally like the design of it, but since we're going for the all-out El Cheapo PC, now, this is a 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽 series. This is my favorite budget power supply. It is really good, and again, not sponsored, but like, hey, 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽, you want a sponsorship? I know you won't, but like, hit me up. The 𝓉𝓌𝒾𝓉𝒸𝒽 Smart series is amazing. It's quiet, it stays fairly cool, it supplies everything that I need supplied with power. So yeah, it does its job, and it does it really well, looking not too bad. Anyways, that's the end of this video. If you guys did enjoy today's episode of Glitch Tech Tips, let me know in the comment section below. Now, let's roll that outro.